Love on Coronation Street has never been simple, but when two fiery hearts collide over one woman, even the cobblestones start to crack. Carla's confidence could charm anyone in Weatherfield, but Becky's wild spirit has a power of its own. And in the middle of it all stands Lisa, torn between loyalty, passion, and truth. This isn't just another love triangle. It's a storm waiting to tear the street apart on the quiet side of Weatherfield. Everything seemed normal. People chatting outside the cafe, the smell of fresh bread from Roy's rolls, and gossip spilling out of the Rover's return. But behind those smiles, something deeper was brewing, a story of friendship, jealousy, and love. It began with three women whose lives were never meant to cross paths so violently. Carla Connor, the queen of control, sharp, smart, and never one to back down. She built her name with power and precision, running her business like a fortress. Beneath her strong image, though, was a woman who longed for someone to understand her, to see past the walls she'd built. Then there was Becky McDonald, all heart and fire. She lived every emotion out loud, the laughter, the anger, the heartbreak. Becky wasn't afraid to fight for what she loved, even when it meant breaking the rules. And then came Lisa, not the loudest, not the strongest, but the quiet heartbeat of the story. She brought calm where chaos lived. She listened, understood, and somehow became the bridge between Carla and Becky, but bridges, as we know, don't last long when storms hit both sides. It started as friendship. Carla found comfort in Lisa's honesty, something rare in her world of secrets. Becky saw in Lisa a second chance, a person who didn't judge her for her past mistakes. But soon admiration turned into obsession. Carla began to see Becky as competition. Becky, on the other hand, felt betrayed. How could her closest friend fall for the same woman? The first spark came one late evening at the Rovers. Lisa's laughter carried across the bar, soft, unguarded, and both Carla and Becky noticed. Their eyes met, not with kindness, but with the unspoken truth. They were both falling for her. That was the moment everything changed. From then on, every glance, every word, every visit became part of a growing battle. Neither woman wanted to admit was happening. By the time the rest of Weatherfield realized something was off, it was too late. Carla and Becky were already on a collision course, one built on pride, passion, and the kind of love that doesn't end quietly. What started as quiet glances soon turned into a silent war. Carla and Becky didn't need to say a word. The way they looked at each other said everything. Carla's eyes, sharp and steady, spoke of control. Becky's gaze burned like a match ready to light the room on fire. And poor Lisa, caught between them, didn't even realize she had become the prize in a battle of pride and passion. At first, the rivalry looked harmless. A few teasing comments, a bit of sarcasm at the pub. Carla would compliment Lisa's style a little too smoothly. Becky would show up uninvited at Lisa's flat, carrying takeaway and her usual charm. It was a game neither of them admitted playing, but both were keeping score. The street began to notice. Even Norris, with his endless gossip, whispered that something wasn't right between those two. Carla played her cards with precision. She knew how to get inside people's heads. She used her calm voice, her poise, and her charm to draw Lisa closer. Every shared coffee, every quiet talk after work felt like a move on a chessboard. Becky, on the other hand, didn't hide her feelings. She stormed into moments, made grand gestures, and poured her emotions out like a flood. To Lisa, Carla offered safety. Becky offered fire. And both began to pull her in opposite directions. The tension broke one night at the Rovers' return. The pub was loud, laughter everywhere, until Carla walked in. Lisa was already there with Becky, laughing over drinks. The sight hit Carla harder than she expected. She smiled, walked over, and joined the conversation. What followed was a war disguised as small talk, each woman trying to outshine the other. Every word had weight. Every laugh was a challenge. And when Becky touched Lisa's hand, Carla's glass froze mid-air. That night, whispers spread down the cobbles. Carla stormed out. Becky followed after a few minutes, furious and heartbroken. Lisa stayed behind, confused, realizing for the first time that this wasn't friendship anymore. It was something far more dangerous. From that night on, Weatherfield felt smaller. Every corner, every glance carried tension. The two women's rivalry had turned the quiet street into a battleground, and Lisa, without meaning to, was standing at its center. The battle for her heart had officially begun. The morning after the pub confrontation, Weatherfield felt different. The air seemed heavier, and the silence between Carla and Becky grew louder than any argument could. What had once been a friendship filled with laughter and trust now stood in ruins, replaced by jealousy and suspicion. Lisa, once the calm center of their world, began to feel like she was living inside a storm she never asked for. Carla buried herself in work. It was her way of coping, control the chaos by pretending it doesn't exist. But even inside the factory walls, her thoughts drifted. Every time her phone buzzed, she hoped it was Lisa. Every time she saw Becky's name mentioned, her jaw tightened. Meanwhile, Becky spiraled in her own way. She couldn't fake smiles or hide her emotions. Her pain came out in bursts, snapping at people, drinking too much, and showing up where she didn't belong. Lisa tried to fix things. She invited both women to talk, to make peace, but the meeting only proved how deep the wounds had gone. Carla stayed calm, but her words cut deep. Becky, on the other hand, couldn't hold back her tears or her anger. It ended with shouting, a slammed door, and Lisa walking away from both of them, her heart too tired to choose sides. As days passed, the street began to talk. People whispered about Carla's coldness and Becky's breakdown. What they didn't see was the guilt behind every action. Carla, alone in her flat, replayed every conversation, wondering where she went wrong. Becky sat by the canal at night, questioning why love always turned into heartbreak for her. And Lisa, she kept her distance, trying to breathe without the weight of their emotions crushing her. Then came the breaking point. Becky confronted Carla outside the factory, accusing her of manipulating Lisa's feelings. Carla fired back, calm but cruel, saying Lisa deserved someone who could handle her life, not someone who ran from it. The words hit Becky like a punch. She left without another word, her pride shattered. That night, Lisa showed up at Carla's door. No makeup, no smiles, just honesty. She told Carla she couldn't do this anymore, not with either of them. Love wasn't supposed to hurt this much. It wasn't supposed to tear people apart. And for the first time, Carla had no reply. She just stood there, watching Lisa walk away into the quiet streets. Her heels echoing like a farewell. The battle was over, but no one had won. What remained was silence, the kind that follows when hearts finally break. Sometimes, love stories don't end with a kiss, they end with silence, and the quiet lessons that follow. After Lisa's goodbye, Weatherfield returned to its usual rhythm. The morning papers still landed on doorsteps, tea still brewed in the cafes, but for Carla and Becky, nothing felt the same. The cobbles that once echoed with laughter now carried the weight of regret. Carla stood by her window one evening, watching the rain slide down the glass. For the first time, she admitted to herself that she hadn't been fighting for love, she'd been fighting not to lose control. In her need to win, she'd forgotten what mattered most, honesty and care. Her reflection in the glass looked tired, softer, almost human again. Sometimes heartbreak doesn't destroy you, it humbles you. Becky's journey was different. She packed her things one night and left Weatherfield for a while. No note, no dramatic exit, just a quiet choice to breathe. The world had seen her as reckless, wild, always chasing something she could never keep. But on the road, far from the gossip and noise, Becky began to see herself clearly. She realized she didn't need to fight to be loved. She needed to learn to love herself first. As for Lisa, she stayed, not out of guilt, but strength. She learned that sometimes the kindest thing you can do is walk away. People expected her to choose between Carla and Becky, but she chose peace instead. Over time, she found her own rhythm again. Her smile returning, not as a prize to be won, but as proof that even after the storm, the sun always finds its way back to the street. Weeks later, fate brought Carla and Becky face to face outside the Rovers. No shouting this time. Just a quiet nod, an unspoken truce. Both had changed. Both had learned. Love wasn't a battlefield anymore. It was a memory, one that taught them who they really were beneath the drama. And as the evening lights flickered on and the rain eased into mist, the narrator's voice settles in. On Coronation Street, hearts may break, but they always find a way to heal. Because even in the messiest stories, there's always a hint of hope waiting just around the corner.